Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site, plot synopsis, and character bio. So we are continuing our run through X-Men and issue 145 from 1981. Great cover here featuring Doctor Doom with the fallen X-Men and poor Colossus. Everybody always has his foot on him, whether it's Doctor Doom or Mastermind had it in the Phoenix. I don't know. Poor guy here. This is actually a very good cover. So Dave Cockrum has come back. He will be the regular penciler until Paul Smith comes, I think, in 270 maybe. So he will be the new with Joseph Rubinstein. Now, David Cockrum is fine, but after John Byrne, it does seem like a friggin' step back. So, that's all right. Of course, everyone knows that I started this by covering classic X-Men. I have every issue starting with Giant Size X-Men #1, which was classic X-Men #1 by all means. And I loved classic X-Men. This is covered by Steve Lido, which is actually, I don't know, it's not as good, but it's super, I don't know, more impactful, you could say, because you just see Doctor Doom's face. They're so big. So I'm not gonna say that I still like the full bodied Doctor Doom kind of with the X Men all falling over him, but I think this is a really good choice by Steve Lido from Classic X Men 49. That is how I actually have a lot of these issues, were through the Classic X Men. So I have every comic that I show on all my videos. Everything I show you, I own, whether I own the originals or reprints or trade paperbacks. Everything that I show you, I own. So we've got our cast of characters here: Wolverine, Colossus, Angel, Storm, Nightcrawler, Iceman, Polaris, Havoc, and Banshee. Havoc, by the way, is misspelled. It's with a K. So you can see here, Claremont gives us a lot of stuff, but not as much as he normally does. Sometimes he's got these things you can. I mean, Claremont can write. In the heart of the west side of Manhattan, in what was once one of the roughest slum neighborhoods in the entire city, stands Lincoln Center, a performing arts complex famed through the world. Its centerpiece is the Metropolitan Opera House, which tonight plays host to Britain's Royal Ballet. And so we have Stevie Hunter with Ororo here. Storm, for those of you. As I mentioned, I do have a playlist, so check that out. Thank you for inviting me, Ororo. I hope you'll enjoy this as much as I will. Thanks, Kitty. This was, oh, so she says, thank Kitty. This was her doing, not mine. Now, we see here, could this be Doctor Doom? Perhaps. Although I doubt it. He's standing there, but Storm is here. Excellent. All I need to do now is spring the trap, and the X-Men are mine. So, and so they're watching the ballet here, and unknown to them, here comes Miss Locke here. Now, Storm has a thing about, she feels jealous of Stevie because of Storm feels motherly toward Kitty and thinks she's being replaced by Stevie. So here comes Miss Locke, and she touches Storm here, and you can see here this little thing here, and then she touches Stevie, and you can see here, kind of showing that it's a bit of a rough touch. And Storm says, "What?" And Storm here says, "Curtains dropping in front of the box, cutting us off from the rest of the audience." And Stevie's like, "I beg your pardon." And Storm says, "Who are you? This is a private box. What are you doing here?" "I am Miss Locke. I serve Arcade." And Storm uses her power. "Ororo, you're creating a hurricane in here, but how? Who? What are you?" As she hits Miss Locke. And suddenly the weather's affecting everyone. And she's like, "Edward, it's gotten so cold." And the guy's like, "Blasted air conditioning." "We will talk later, Stevie. I'll explain everything." I hope, she thinks here. "That was a warning, Miss Locke. A most impressive one, Storm, but also a wasted effort." And suddenly, Stevie goes down. She goes, "Ororo, I feel," and Storm calls out for her. "I'm not in your power, X-Men. You are in mine," says Miss Locke. And suddenly you can see Storm's not feeling well. "When I touched you and your friend, I injected a contact poison into your bodies. Without the antidote, you'll both be dead in minutes. Why? Was Arcade too frightened to kill me in person?" And Miss Locke says, "Hardly. The poison was merely to ensure that I had your undivided attention and to prevent your stopping my departure. I'm actually here because I need the X-Men's help," she says. And so she tells him here, as a consequence of business dealing he had with the mutant known as the Toad, Arcade incurred the enmity of Victor Von Doom. And this was in an issue of Marvel 2-in-1, which they don't even tell us. He's sworn that Arcade will pay for insulting him. Dr. Doom is a man of his word. I wish the X-Men to rescue Arcade and to make certain that Von Doom never bothers him again. To give you an incentive, I've kidnapped those dearest to you." So we see here the Greys, Moira McTaggart, Nightcrawler's girlfriend Amanda something, and then this is Ileana, Peter's Colossus sister. The parents, she tells us who they are. So they are in Murder World, failed to free Arcade Storm, and they will die there. So Storm eventually collapses here. And then you can see her kind of coming through. This is actually a good panel. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with Cockrum, but he's no John Byrne, and we were spoiled. We had like 2 years of John Byrne, so she realizes Stevie's gone and figures Miss Locke took her as another hostage. And so it's been explained that they have unstable molecules, so that's how they're able to, I don't know, change so quickly. So Storm's flying here, and she thinks to herself, "She said she'd abducted those the X-Men love most. I have to make certain she was telling the truth. Moira is in Ireland, and little Ileana in Russia, a bit out of my range. But Amanda, Nightcrawler's sweetheart, shares an apartment with two fellow stewardesses on Central Park South." I don't think, well, maybe back then. Man, it's funny how things have gone up. She probably would need 10 roommates nowadays. "Amanda's mother is a sorceress of awesome power. Amanda is one of no mean. I'm sorry. Let me restart here. Amanda's mother is a sorceress of awesome power. Amanda is one of no mean ability herself." That reads wrong. I'm sorry. I find it hard to believe Miss Locke could easily capture her. And of course, X-Men Annual 4, which I have covered. What am I saying? Arcade once captured the X-Men with ridiculous ease. It took all our powers and skill, plus more luck than we deserved, to escape from Murder World. No one seems home. I'll have to pick the locks on these glass doors to get inside. I'm sorry. Sometimes Claremont's it just sometimes doesn't read right to me. So X-Men 122 and 123, which I covered in the classic X-Men way. Also, of course, she used to be a thief, so she's able to lockpick, of course. That perfume, I recognize it from the theater. Miss Locke was wearing it and pinned to that pillow, that card. Oh, Amanda, no. Of course, we see the A from Arcade, and of course, we see this little Nightcrawler plush. And so, I tried to telephone the Greys, but there's no answer. They live 90 miles up the Hudson River. If I summon a powerful enough tailwind, I can be there in minutes. But to do that, I must warp weather patterns across a considerable area. I'll create atmos- I'll create. I think it meant it'll create atmospheric chaos over the city. If the need were any less imperative, I would not do so, but I must. And so, you can see, by the way, back then, you needed four in the cockpit. Now it's just the pilot, co-pilot, because computers have pretty much replaced the other two jobs. Well, I bet you could do it with one, but most people would feel more comfortable with two. And so the pilot says, "Where'd this freak jet stream come from? It cut our ground speed down to almost zero." And the co-pilot's like, "That's impossible." So, um, she finally makes it to the Gray's house. She said, "Looks peaceful." I too, I'm too late. Miss Locke anticipated my coming here. This note tells where Von Doom is holding Arcade. Though Phoenix is no more, villains will strike at the X-Men through her family. So here you can see the little orb that was given as a gift from Lalandra. So, and well, Storm's going to explain it here. This is the hollow empathic matrix crystal given the Greys by Empress Lilandra after Jean's death. It not only contains a three-dimensional image of Jean Grey, the Phoenix, but also the essence of her personality. That was on X-Men 138, which we covered also as a classic X-Men. "Ah, my beloved friend, would I had died in your place. I still miss you. The X-Men could not save you, Jean, but we will. But we will save your parents. On that you have my word." And suddenly, the smiling Jean to the angry Jean. That's awesome. So, just a side note, I think Arcade is the worst villain. That's probably why this particular story is so not enjoyable. I'm just not a big fan of Arcade, but c'est la vie. So we got the Xavier's mansion here, and so the Beast um, says they know little about the Arcade, but Doctor Doom is something else. And they ask, "Is he a formidable foe?" Of course, I don't think the X Men have ever faced Doctor Doom, not even the original X Men. So, Nightcrawler says, "In Magneto's class, at least. I heard of him while growing up in the circus. His name is known and feared throughout Central Europe. Even Amanda's mother, Margali, respects his power." So, if the X Men plan to tackle Doctor Doom, you'll need all the help you can get. I can alert my fellow Avengers. And Professor X says, "Thank you, Beast. Perhaps, for the present, I prefer to keep this matter within the family." And the Beast says, "As you requested, I'll transmit the Avengers files on Doom to you. I hope they'll do some good. Beast out." And Professor X says, "Excellent, Hank. We'll be in touch." And Wolverine says, "Charlie, you talk like we plan on doing what that Lockbroad wants. Are we giving in?" asks Wolverine. "Have you an alternative?" asks the professor. "Trash her permanently in Murder World. Get our people back and let Arcade rot. Charlie, we can't yield to blackmail. If Miss Locke gets away with this, we'll never see an end to it." And he continues here. "We can't protect all those we care for. We'll always be vulnerable that way. Our only chance is to stop it before it starts. We fight back. We make certain no one ever tries to get the X-Men this way again by making the price of doing it too high to pay." And Storm concurs and says, "Wolverine is right, Professor. At least in part. We cannot submit, yet we cannot abandon Miss Locke's hostages, and I will not sacrifice them." And Professor X says, "You speak as though you have a plan, Storm." And she says, "I have." Real quick, they don't. I'm gonna make mention. They just don't do these ticks anymore. You see the black and the on Xavier's foreheads and here on his cheekbones. Most modern artists have almost all abandoned. Um, Everything now is more photorealistic and more photoshopped and all that stuff. So here we are in Rio Diablo, so we must be getting to Havoc and Polaris here. And so here we see some more effects of the damage caused by Storm. And a close call, Lorna. So I see that rock slide missed the house, but it wrecked our windmill, our primary source of electricity. Do you want me to radio town for a repair crew? And Havoc says, that'll cost an arm and a leg and take all day. Let's see if we can do the job ourselves. And he's going to get ready to use his cosmic rays. I swear, these mutants, they're the powers that. It's it's so fun at the same time. Like the end, I know what the X-Men are supposed to represent, but seriously, who the hell knows what a mutant is versus like why are the Fantastic Four loved and the X-Men hated? Why it's so it's so dumb. It just I understand again what the purpose is. It just when you really think about it, and I guess maybe that's the point, you don't think about it, but when you really think about it, it just doesn't make much sense. But it is part of the story. But really, what difference does it make whether it's Spider-Man? You know, you don't see them going, "Oh, Spider-Man." I mean, sometimes you do because of Jameson, but or the Fantastic Four, or the Avengers, or anybody else. They're just like, "Oh, mutants." Well, so Polaris says, "Not bad, hun," and she uses her magnetic powers and reconstructs the windmill back. And suddenly Professor Xavier appears, but you notice the sweat. We'll get to that. Havoc, Polaris, you're needed. And Havoc is like, "What? An astral image of Professor X. He's contacting us telepathically," says Polaris. "Professor, no, Alex and I aren't superheroes. We left the X-Men to live our places in peace as much as like normal people as possible." And he says, "Had I a choice, child, I would respect your decision, but I have not. The need is desperate. Angel has sent one of his private aircrafts for you. It will arrive at your local airport in approximately 2 hours. You will be there to meet." And then Havoc is like, "We'll be there, sir." They don't even ask what the hell is wrong. So thanks for making my decision for me, big fella. Sorry about that, says Havoc. "And I thought I'd broken you out of the habit. You know, whatever happened must be pretty serious for the professor to summon us so abruptly. We'll know soon enough. In the meantime, since uh, he left us some time to kill, so um, what are they going to do?" And so Professor X basically contacts Iceman, same thing, and he's like, "I need you to return to the mansion at once." And by the way, he gets bus fare. He doesn't even get a a private airplane. And so here we have the Concorde, and we have Banshee here, and Professor X appears next to him. By the way, Banshee has left because he's pretty much lost his powers. And anyway, Professor X appears in an empty seat. Nah, there's no such thing as empty seats. Um, Banshee, Charles, we got trouble. Friend Moira's been kidnapped. Why couldn't he call? Why does he get on a Concorde? I know, Sean. She was not the only one. I intended asking your aid. It seems you've anticipated me. The Rolls Royce will pick you up at JFK. Fine, Charles. I'll see you soon. What is it? Why is he whispering? Can't he just think it? All right. I'm sorry. It's just sometimes I get a little like, ugh. So, Banshee says, "It's been ages since I've seen Charles create a telepathic astral projection. He looked pretty rocky. The effort must have cost him dear. I pray he's all right." So, um, so back at the mansion here, where Storm says, "Are you well, Professor? You look pale." And he says, "I'm tired, Storm. I've been trying to mentally contact Scott, but I spent myself summoning the others. I lack the strength to reach him." And Professor S thinks here, "There's been a subtle shift in the Earth's magnetic field, creating interference, psychic static, that inhibits my telepathic communication over long distances, forcing me to make a supreme effort to transmit the simplest of messages. This can only be the work of one man, the X-Men's arch foe, Magneto. But why has he done this? And why now?" So, I'm Puerto Rican and I grew up in Puerto Rico. Spanish is actually my first language. And when I first started discovering this, I called him Magneto because I pronounced the E with an sound. So I wouldn't say Magneto. I would say because it's magnet. I mean, it's normally, so I would say Magneto instead of Magneto. Um, so and so we arrive at an island here, and by the way, part of the problem here, they were washed away. Him and remember he was on a boat in the last issue. So part of Storm's uh, that she caused is this. So he shows up on the shore here, and he goes, "Oh, where am I?" And suddenly, when he opens his eyes, because he lost his ruby quartz, here comes the eye beams. So he's like, "Oh no!" So he rips his shirt, which, by the way, is like totally ripped here, but he rips it and he's gonna make himself a bandage here, and so here comes a Lee or a lettuce. And she goes, "Scott, oh Scott, thank heaven you're all right. When that storm separated us, I thought you drowned for sure. That bandage, have you hurt your eyes?" She says, kind of. I've had paramedic training. Let me take a look." And he says, "No, no, please, believe me. There's nothing you can do. Where are we?" He says, and she says, "Somewhere in the Bahamas," which means civilization could literally be right around the corner. And if it isn't, says Cyclops. By the way, they're sort of blended in into the background here. So we survive. We wait for someone to find us. If the Coast Guard is on its toes, if we're real lucky, we could be picked up today, tomorrow, anytime. Or we could be here for the rest of our lives. So I like this panel to notice where his hands are, or at least in relative. Oh, sorry, I'm blind. I didn't see it. So all the X-Men are gathered here. I will take Wolverine, and so they're gonna basically make teams here. And Storm says, "I will take Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and Angel and confront Doctor Doom. If possible, we'll try to secure Arcade's release without a fight." And of course, Havoc says, "I wouldn't count on that, Ororo." And then Professor X simultaneously, "Havoc, you, accompanied by Polaris, Iceman, and Banshee, will locate Murder World and rescue Miss Locke's hostages." And Professor X says, "We four have never operated as a team. I suggest a combat workout in the danger room to loosen up." And he goes, "Why is everyone smiling? Did I say something funny?" And of course, the danger room is still a wreck from when Kitty was fighting that demon. And so, speaking of Kitty, she says, "I wish I was going with you, Ororo. Just get better, little one. That's the important thing. She's still sick." "Okay. Oh, sorry. I know. Goodbye, Ororo. Be careful. Come back safe," she says. So off goes the A-team. And so we arrive here at this is from Marvel Twin One. So this is a Marvel Twin One number 68 here. This says here, 200 miles up the country in the heart of New York's Adirondack Mountains stands a medieval structure originally constructed by Doctor Doom. It was recently turned into an amusement park by one of the X-Men's old foes, now reformed, the Toad. So, and Doctor Doom has taken over it again. So, a lightning bolt. And so, here is Storm, and she says she comes in peace. And of course, the soldiers here say, "This is private property, and the boss don't take kindly to trespassers. Get out or be thrown out." But of course, we see this boot here, and we recognize it here. "Venezo, I decide who shall or shall not be removed from my residence. I am Doom. I rule here." Great, great panel. I like the pose. So I understand you have some business with me, young woman. And he says, "You have Arcade. I want him alive and unhurt." Just like that. You demand and Doom obeys. And suppose Doom refuses. And she says, "Then one of us may well live to regret it." So, and Doom says, Indeed, I'm not given to impulsive decisions. Shall we discuss this matter further over dinner? My chef sets a superb table. He dare not do so otherwise. I love that. A gracious invitation, Lord Doom graciously accepted. So, in the meantime, here comes Angel and Nightcrawler. Storms inside the castle. Man, that lady has guts. And says Angel. And Nightcrawler says, and you have good eyes, angels, to see so clearly from so great a distance. The best, pal. Am I close enough? Angel asks. Yes, see you soon. And so he teleports, and of course, it's established that the smell of brimstones when he teleports, and here he goes, and he grabs these two here. And so soon he's joined by Wolverine, and here comes Colossus. So far, so good, but I expected more guards. According to the data B sent us, Doom's been keeping a low profile since he was deposed as ruler of Latveria. A private army would draw too much attention from the feds. And so here it tells you that was around Fantastic Four 200. When Doom lost his throne, he also lost his diplomatic immunity. He can't afford to be caught breaking any laws. I'm surprised that they didn't go get him before that. So then why abduct Arcade? And so Wolverine says, I didn't say he couldn't break the law, Colossus, just that he couldn't afford to get caught. According to Locke's note, this is Arcade's cell. If Storm's were she if if Storm were here, she would pick the lot. But since not, allow me to try a more direct method, says Colossus. And then he breaks through. And they're like, empty. And Wolverine's like, I had a feeling this caper was going down too easy. I think we've been suckered. And suddenly behind, I think you're right, Shorty. And Angel's like, uh-oh. And here are these, I don't know what these are. I suggest you give up. These battle suits were designed to trash the Fantastic Fours. Trashing you freaks should be child's play. We ain't the Fantastic Four, bub. We're the X-Men, says Wolverine. I like this panel as well. When Cockrum does something that I like, I will point it out because I don't want to come off as just some, I'm not here to try to trash his work. I just think that it's a step down compared to John Byrne. It's a step down. I am very glad when Paul Smith comes, but then John Romita Jr. in the beginning kind of struggled a little bit in my opinion. But he starts to get really better just in time for him to go to Daredevil. But then we get a bunch of fill-ins before we finally get Mark Silvestri. So, all right. So Wolverine goes, and we don't trash easy. And you can see he pops his claws. If you say so, shrimp, as he throws it or energizes. And then Colossus grabs one of these things and tosses it at him. And you can see poor Wolverine here. He's practically naked. And so, by the white wolf, says Colossus. Perhaps we should have surrendered while we had the chance, says Nightcrawler. But since we didn't, Nightcrawler, let's take him, says Angel. And I just bought his action figure, his brand new one. So I think I have 3 of them. So I love how these guys come all masked and comic books. So he looks funny. So Doom speaks, mine is a solitary existence. I entertain rarely, and when I do, I rarely have a guest as charming and beautiful as you. Thank you, Lord Doom, says Storm. And she smiles here. I'm actually enjoying this and regretting that my sole purpose here is to keep Doom occupied while my fellow X-Men find and free Arcade. They should have reached his cell by now. Doom is a fascinating man, she says. And so they're having either a Sprite or champagne. You can see the bubbles in here. And so Doom here, I do like this panel as well, and this one as well, just kind of showing all these things here. I'll get to this real quick. Extraordinary. Storm seems drawn to me, as I am to her. A lioness to lion, queen to king. She does not fear me. She should. She will. Says Doom. And here we got like TV screen, so he can see Nightcrawler here by himself and Angel here fighting one of the guards. I've been monitoring her companions since they entered the castle. I'll deal with them at the proper time after I've dealt with their lovely leader. And so here we go. Just kind of just describe the scenes here because I don't need to read what's going on because you can just clearly see everything here. So Wolverine's happy to be able to cut loose, but they get Nightcrawler, and he's going to blast him, or both of them are going to blast him. He, of course, teleports out of the way. That trope's been used quite a few times, so why not one more? So these two soldiers are fall. It's impossible. These suits were supposed to make us invincible. And Wolverine says, back to the drawing board, bub? So he escapes. And here you can see Arcade coming. And Doctor Doom says, the coward evidently feared the X-Men more than me. I must teach him the error of his ways. His punishment should have a sufficient object lesson for his comrades. In Doom service, there's only victory or death, never defeat. You are not my only guest, Storm, says Doom. Allow me to present Arcade. I believe you know each other. That's a fact, Vic, although we've never been formally introduced. How you do, sweet thing? Arcade talking like this and Doctor Doom taking it. Okay. And I know that's always a robot because, God forbid, somebody actually have Doctor Doom actually do something, but it's, I guess, smart of Doctor Doom, but I don't think he would allow Arcade to do this. You a guest, not a prisoner, and of course Storm's like, no, and you can see here that unfortunately it was all a ruse. And Storm's like, it was a trap from the beginning, and I led the X-Men into it. How could I have been so blind? So Storm uses her powers here, but Doom says, an admirable try, Storm, and an admirable plan as well. Against a lesser foe, both might have succeeded, but I am Doom. I have forgotten more about strategy and combat than you are ever likely to learn, he says. So, and Doom is quite formidable. So I don't have a problem with Doom. It's nice to establish other characters that the X-Men kind of aren't always in their own little corner. So, but I think there are no more. So Doctor Doom will show up one more time. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that shows up the rest of Chris Claremont's run, and I don't think so. I think once Doctor Doom, we don't even get a Spider-Man. Yeah, we don't get anybody else. Everything after Doctor Doom's second appearance, I believe, is all X-Men corner, all X-Men universe. No guest stars of any kind. So, anyway, Doom says, you are an enchanting child, my dear, but that is all you are. And that is all you and your fellow X-Men are, children. And he tosses this little thing here, and she says, that globe, it's tracking me. I can't evade it. And the winds I'm generating around me, I can't blow it. And so it hits her, and she goes, my arm's gone numb. Sensations, fire and ice, so intense, absolute agony and ecstasy, shooting through my entire body. And suddenly you can see she's turning into like something sort of like a metal. Here, my hand, my forearm have turned into chrome. What has Doom done to me? And she lands, and suddenly she turns into chrome. And too late, here comes the X-Men. And this is what I mean. John Byrne, oh man, I really miss him, and it's nothing. It's just doesn't look the same. So when I first encountered these issues in the 90s, and keep in mind that when I first saw these issues, I was very familiar with John Byrne at that time. He had already done the Superman, and he was back at Marvel doing Namor when this came out in Classic X-Men. I'm talking about. And so I'd seen Jim Lee, I'd seen Mark Silvestri, I'd seen all these people. I hated these issues. And it's only been as an older person that I've learned to appreciate them, but boy did I hate these issues. I really hated Dave Cockrum. Um it just took me a long time to be able to get his appreciation. Again, not his fault, but when you follow such a successful run like John Byrne and you get to this, it just becomes a little uh I don't know. It's like don't be the one to follow a legend, be the one that follows the other person. So and so you see the X-Men are hit here. They are very brave, Arcade, but very foolish. I almost feel bad for them. I did not think anyone in the world would underestimate me, yet they did. But all the X-Men have fallen except for Colossus. Feel sorry for yourself, Butcher, he says. Your energy weapons had no effect on me. I'm going to rip your armor from you piece by piece, Doom. I love the screen tones. And when I'm finished with you, it will be Arcade's turn. Doom does not engage in fisticuffs, youth, and he just hits him here. All I need to do is use a neural disruptor to scramble the motor neurons of your armored body. The effect is temporary, but until it wears off, you will be completely paralyzed. As much a living statue as Storm, you have entered the lion's den, X-Men. You will not leave. Next issue, Murder World, a lovely place to die. Uncanny X-Men 145. Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum, Joseph Rubenstein. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.